Hey, friends. Welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. Come join me, your host, Nicole, for some hope-filled conversations about heartfelt entertainment that makes your heart swing. Hey, Hallmarkies. Welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. I'm your host, Nicole, and today I'm joined once again by my friend, Catherine, to talk about Hallmark Channel Countdown to Christmas and Miracles of Christmas 2024 week 7. So this is Thanksgiving. And in part 1 of this episode, we will be talking about Christmas Under the Lights, Debbie Maycomer's Joyful Mrs. Miracle, and Deck the Walls. First off, Christmas Under the Lights, starring Marco Grazzini, Heather Hemmings, and Antonio Caone. It was written by Russell Hainline and directed by Lucy Guest. Reluctantly returning home for her family's Christmas carnival, a woman unexpectedly connects with a local artist, helping with the event. Welcome back to the podcast, Catherine. I'm excited to have you on.
Thank you, Nicole, for having me. I'm excited to chat Christmas movies.
Me too. So,
All right, collecting my notes.
what are your first impressions on this movie?
This one, with it being a Hallmark movie one, so expecting it to be a little bit more intense in the storyline, I thought that it definitely was that, and I thought that they gave it enough meat in the script for everything, so I was excited about that. Overall, I enjoyed it. There were, of course, a few little things, but overall, out of the 5 that I watched for this, it was probably ranked for me probably number 3. So yeah.
Originally, for my rankings, I combined Hallmark Channel, Hallmark Mystery, and Hallmark Plus. But
Okay.
then that just got too complicated. So a couple of days ago, I decided to rank them by channel. So I have a Countdown to Christmas ranking for just
Okay.
Hallmark Channel, and then a Hallmark Mystery, Miracles of Christmas. And I think this one is ranked number 3 for
Okay.
Miracles of Christmas. So
That's
yeah,
fair. I'm just gonna rank by the week, but I see what you're doing.
mhm. I really enjoyed
Um,
it.
yeah. I mean, obviously we have some more meat to dig
Hmm.
into with it, but
Yeah.
overall it was
Yes.
one that I would watch again, and that's kind of how I rank them, of whether
Yeah.
or not you'd
I
want
see
to.
what
And
you're
it was
saying.
also one that I feel like really touched me in different ways, and that some things were said or expressed by different characters from the script that I was just like, if I can cling to that myself,
Hmm.
that's a good movie. And I
Yeah.
really felt like this one had that.
Yeah. I totally agree. Great ensemble cast. I thought that the story was unique in its own way while still holding true to the traditional old Hallmark kind of
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah. It had its predictability, but it also
Yeah.
had elements of it that you were like, I'm glad that they included that it was a
Yeah.
nice change from something else.
Yeah. Like, for example, Heather's character didn't end up going back to the city. She moved back to
Yeah.
the farm.
Yeah. So what I appreciated with this was definitely the intertwining of bringing the daughter and mother
Yeah.
relationship back in the flashbacks. And
Hmm.
then you're when it happens, like if I'm going to compare, I think I'm comparing right now, the first thing that jumps in my mind is while you were sleeping, and that was the girl with her father, and it's one scene there. She still talked about how she misses her father the entire movie, but you just get that one flashback. And I think it was just, I wasn't expecting it as much as it was brought in. And I really appreciated it because it also made me, think about it myself in as dealing with a loss myself this year. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
just having that time to really sit there and grieve with the
Hmm.
character too, because they had depth in
Yeah.
the script and the story, and they allowed themselves, they didn't go
Yeah.
all over the map with everything. Like you could follow the
Hmm.
story, and you knew where it was going to end up, but you also
Yeah.
knew that it was a real journey. And so
Hmm.
that's
Yeah.
overall, I really appreciated it. Yeah.
Yeah, I did too. I feel the same way. And moving on to our hits, what were some things that you did like about this movie and or any favorite scenes?
Well, the Hallmark After Dark and me. I gotta go with the Marco showing off his chest. Sorry.
Oh, I laughed. I LOL'd. That
Who's
was
shocked?
hilarious.
But what I absolutely above everything, what I loved about that scene was he called her out. And he's like, I see you. And
Hmm.
you and it's just like I think that's what I'm loving so much this year. I really have
Yeah.
noticed the changes in formula. Sure, that type of scene has happened continuously, but it's just,
Yeah.
it's the guy doesn't ever say anything or he doesn't notice. And so I think that you can add for such a seriousness in the storyline that you
Yeah.
can add those little tidbits that is just all
Yeah.
you need. I thought was great. And like I said, because of going through everything myself, I appreciated where I felt like I was walking very similar story to her.
Hmm.
And it's not too often you really get to see yourself in a character.
Yeah.
And so for that, I thought that that was well done, and it's helping me this holiday season too.
A couple of things I liked, not necessarily scenes, but I loved the brother-sister dynamic with Nick
Hmm.
and Emily, and then the friendship with Emily and Aurora, who she worked with at her company, and
Oh
then
yeah.
Luke and Nick, I thought was great too.
Oh, and I will say the other thing that cracked me up is they, with their humor and what they were trying
Yeah,
to put some real world in there is, let's be honest, they were over exaggerating the social media components of it and then the
yeah,
influencers. And well,
hmm
obviously we know that's a huge strong
hmm
following for many people. I was just like, there was just something about it where I was like, they
hmm
had them be the right tone. If they were going to be something, and it wasn't that they were mocking it by any means, but they had it pretty true to what I guess, what you expect to see. In a
yeah,
lot of them, I've been watching way too many YouTube videos and follow
oh
me for
yeah,
all these tricks kind of a thing. And so just keeping it current,
hmm
and that's that's what I enjoy. Like I
yeah,
said, it helps you be able to see yourself more in
yeah.
it.
All the alpacas I thought were a fun little component. We have Bo, Mr. Darcy, and Rudy.
How did they get the hat on Rudy? It was
I
so
don't know, but that scene when they're talking about the Santa hat on Rudy, I love when Emily says, I think it looks amazing.
cute.
Nick,
Mhm.
I think it's demeaning. Luke,
Yeah.
I like it.
And you knew it was going to go to something that, like, you knew they were embarrassing somebody, and then it's the alpaca. No,
Oh
that
my gosh.
that was really cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked the dry wit. The dry wit was really good in
Yeah, the
this
dry
one.
wit was great.
The three of them, that relationship between all three of them was believable.
Hmm.
The brother sister aspect
Hmm.
of it, and then the best, I don't want to
Yeah.
say best friends, but the friend, and then appreciating somebody who was
Hmm.
there during a time of need and, still owing, what do you owe
Yeah.
them versus what makes you happy, like all of that
Yeah.
stuff.
I also loved the friendship with Emily and Taylor. I
Hmm.
thought that was great. I really enjoyed all of their scenes. I think my favorite of theirs was the one towards the end when I think Emily was trying to decide whether to stay or
Hmm.
go back to the city. I thought
Yeah,
that was
and
really
her
nice.
and what was her saying was nobody knows. Like, I'm trying to decide what it looks like or whatever, or something along those lines of, what my future looks like in the front
Yeah.
view versus the
Yeah.
rear view. And the rear
Yeah.
view is such, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that's where a lot of people live.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so I was just like, oh yeah. And then
Yeah.
for her to be like, nobody does, but that's part of the,
Hmm.
that can be part of the joy of it all.
Yeah. And then all the flashback scenes and the dream sequence with Emily and her mom, all of those were
Hmm.
nice. But I think my two favorites were the one, I think it was in between the beginning and the middle of the movie with the decorating of the Christmas tree while
Okay.
dancing, and then
Oh,
the one at the very end, which I think that was the dream sequence. when she's in
Oh,
her
yes.
bedroom.
Yeah, when she was really struggling with her decision. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really sweet one.
I also appreciated that, well, there was, if you want to call it enemies to lovers, I really wouldn't say that besides a car accident, they were, I mean, they didn't really have,
Yeah.
they didn't play into that a long time, and
No.
they moved past it, and they actually were having
Mm-hmm.
like open conversations,
Yeah.
that you don't, like you could actually see them getting to understand each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think sometimes we get that. I think you get, because you're so used to the kiss at the end or whatever, that
Mm-hmm.
you kind of miss some of the other stuff that maybe,
Yeah.
because there's the exes, and while there was an ex,
Yeah.
there wasn't, it wasn't an ex that was in the picture at
Yeah.
the moment to come and interrupt. And so that was
Mm-hmm.
refreshing, that it wasn't something along those lines.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm not gonna lie, the meet cute did make me laugh just a little bit. Not her
Oh,
almost hitting him,
yeah.
but just
Yes.
the back and forth banter, when she
Yeah,
does
like,
almost hit him.
well, and
With,
then, well, I actually had to go back and rewatch it because I went to rewatch the house in the background, because I'm like, did she,
oh yeah,
because I'm assuming he's on the property because he's looking
I
for the
think so.
alpaca.
I thought, yeah,
And I was like, did she literally put her seatbelt on? I mean, safety first, but did she literally put her seatbelt on to go 2 feet up the driveway? And they were different houses.
yeah. I don't know, but I laughed when he says, "Why are you racing down the road like it's the Indy 500?"
Yeah, yeah. And I will say though, there was a lot of things where I was like, when she was just like, well, who do you expect to be in the road or whatever? I'm like, well, this is called a neighborhood or residential or a
Yeah.
farm. There's going to be people on the road. So,
Yes.
so
And
yeah.
and then before that, another line that made me laugh is when she's at the diner and she's asking if they have oat milk, and the woman that works there, she's like, "How do you milk an oat?"
Yeah, and it got brought up quite a few different times. Yeah. And I personally have not tried goat milk, so
I haven't
I'm not
either.
gonna, I have no opinion about that, but I did find
Mm,
that interesting that she was just like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought, going from
no.
almond to oat.
I actually do use oat milk occasionally at
Oh,
home.
I have too. And it is,
Yeah.
I like it, but
Yeah.
I just thought it was, like there, and I did think that that interaction was very weird in a way, where
Yeah.
with the diner owner, where she's
Hmm.
just like, like it was like she had never been there,
Yeah.
which I'm obviously she had, and
Yeah.
and then obviously she had been back in town, and that's been brought, and that gets
Hmm.
brought up. But I was kind of like, it was one of those, I'm like, wait, did I miss something? But
Yeah.
I think that everybody in their way of nudging
Hmm.
her along was done well and done in an expected way. And that includes the
Yeah.
diner lady.
Yes. Do you have a favorite scene with Luke and Emily from this movie?
I think I appreciated the one that stands out to me the most was when he wanted her to stay. And he's talking
Hmm.
about that, with the brother and everything like that too, where,
Yeah.
I don't think you maybe know her as much as, and the brother was obviously like they were close, but they weren't
Yeah.
close kind of a thing. And so when he was just like, well, I want to encourage her to, because I
Hmm.
really feel that's where her heart lies. But
Hmm.
then when that job opportunity came, and I thought that that one was just like, he knew it's letting them go, and
Hmm.
if it's meant to be, they'll come back. And
Hmm.
it wasn't as much as you could tell it was immediately breaking his heart. It also broke his heart
Yeah.
when she said that she was, I did appreciate, and this is an odd thing to appreciate, but I appreciate this,
Hmm.
is that she respected him enough to say that she knew that there was something between them, and until she made up her mind, she could not do anything about it. It's really weird that I'm saying this, but at the same time, it's not, is I'm appreciating grown up conversations with these, because
Yeah.
it's not first time loves, and that's not what we're having. We're having, like, you've had a history, you've had a life, and it's the work that gets
Mm-hmm.
put in to bring you guys back, to bring you together. And he flat out
Mm-hmm.
said, he's like, we have a lot to know and a lot
Mm-hmm.
to work through, but I want to do it together. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh.
I appreciated what you said with her comment about she couldn't commit until she knew what she was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was great.
And
See.
the shirtless scene was always just fun eye candy, and it was cute. It was
Yeah.
just cute banter. And the
Yes.
other banter that I really enjoyed was they're sitting on the couches,
Mm-hmm.
and what was the actual conversation? Oh, massages. They're talking about massages, and at some point she's just like, yeah, I'm going to stop talking now. So there was
Mm-hmm.
still that element of, like shyness and
Yeah.
childlike, not childlike, but like
Yeah.
that first time love aspect to it, but it was intermixed
Mm-hmm.
with real conversations. And so that one was definitely, because that would totally
Yeah.
be me.
Of course, I love a good montage. So the one where we see all the clips of them working on the farm and then she learns how to milk the goat for the goat milk.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really fun.
My last favorite was that we got a nice cameo in there.
We got to
So
talk about the Nile Mater cameo. That
yeah.
was great. I was not expecting him to show up.
Well, and here's the thing is I was don't laugh. An audience don't laugh at this, but you can if you want to. There's so many of these movies that I was second guessing myself if I was watching the right one at first with this. And then I went to go to IMDb just to go check really quick on something. And actually, his character was one of the first ones above the actual main characters in this one on in the listing. And I'm like, so I like all of a sudden my heart sank. I'm like, I'm not watching the right one. I was like, no, wait a second. There is so it got spoiled for me, but at the same time, I was just like, I knew he was coming.
Hmm. That's awesome.
I'm just like, am I watching the right one?
Oh my goodness.
Hey, real life, when you're
Yeah.
watching them all in a row.
Yes. I think three of my other favorite scenes with Luke and Emily. Number one, when they go to her childhood apartment and they talk over the candy cane lattes about
Mm-hmm.
what she does for Christmas, and that is she sleeps in, watches a Muppet Christmas Carol, eats some leftovers from all the holiday parties, and then calls her family. And then he gives her the pitch about the apartment
Mm-hmm.
being his new home. And then I thought the flirting about whether they'll see each other again was great. And they
Oh,
literally get on the phone and
yeah.
pretend like they're talking to each other on the phone and they're like, "What do you want for dinner?"
Yeah. Basically, she's like, let's go, I'm hungry.
Yes, that.
Yeah, she wasn't afraid of being herself, where it's just like, feed me now.
Yes. And then the dinner, I loved that scene when they talk
Mm-hmm.
about work and her starting her own business. And then the mention of The Holiday, which that is a movie I have yet to see, but I've heard it's a great one.
Oh, Nicole, how are we friends? No I'm kidding. I've never seen Love Actually,
I
so
haven't either.
I can't say anything. But The Holiday is one of them that I have watched on repeat. It
I
is
haven't
it's
watched either.
oh well good. Oh good. We're in good company.
I need to watch both of them though.
That's another one. I mean, I guess I
Hmm.
expected a little bit more when it's a motion picture like that, but that one
Hmm.
is definitely deep.
Yeah, I've heard it's
And
great.
but then the same thing, they've got the playfulness in there too,
Yeah.
and intermixed
And
with it. So
then the last scene, of course, I loved the end when they share their feelings and they kiss for the first time.
yeah, yeah.
Moving on to Mrs.
I don't know if I'd really consider this a miss, but at the
Okay.
same time, I think it's just because it was just like so overdone. But why did we need to have two mean girls at the party?
I
It
see what
it
you're
was
saying.
I was like, okay, we're already, like, I'm sorry, high school stunk for me.
Mm.
So you're like, it was immediately, but what I
Yeah.
appreciated hadn't been done before is when he goes and saves her because he's overhearing it,
Hmm.
but she's just like, why are these questions never asked to you? And I was
Yeah.
just like, I'm like, oh, that's a different way to look at it. But I was just like,
Yeah.
at some point, I was just like, especially because not to say that you can't be a mean girl and a mom, but
Yeah.
that one had her daughter who came to the party. So in kind
Mm-hmm.
of a way, that whole white elephant party was kind of a miss
Mm-hmm.
for me. I don't know.
Okay.
It was okay,
Yeah.
but it wasn't.
Yeah.
I guess it's not fair to compare anything to
I see.
Holly or something else, but
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
but there was, I don't know. I think I just felt that they were trying too much with maybe like the group of friends, the
Yeah.
three guys who were having the beer. I think they were just
Mm-hmm.
trying to do too much in one scene, maybe kind of a thing with
Yeah.
trying to establish who the side
Mm-hmm.
characters were, which isn't bad. It just don't do it all in one
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah. I agree.
My other final miss, and this is one that I did write down, was when she goes out there on the porch and
Mm-hmm.
she's just like, "Oh, everybody's wondering where you were." And, hello, it's a whole wall of windows. And
Yeah.
you can see and they can see it. And I'm like, and they're like, "Oh, we don't know how we're going to explain it, or we'll have to answer those questions now." And I'm like, either the line wasn't needed or they cut something out or something, because at that point I was just like, if you look out your window, if you're asking about somebody, you'd see them. So,
Yeah.
so logistically, it just made me chuckle where I was like,
Yeah.
oh, like, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a
Yeah.
miss for me just because of the logistics of it. It kind of
Yeah.
bugged me.
I see what you're saying. For me, I only had really one. I wanted more Christmas feels than what we got. I loved the Christmas feels we did get, but I feel like there maybe needed to be a little bit more since it was a Christmas movie. But I enjoyed the romance with Marco's character, Luke, and then Heather's character, Emily. But I felt like, at least for me, I want a little bit more development of that romance.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. I
Yeah.
I think that we were seeing enough to, like I said, for me, make it feel like it was not just a quick fleeting
Hmm.
thing. So we saw enough of it, but at the same
Yes.
time, at sometimes you're just like, it's still just like too quick for him to
Hmm.
always come in to rescue her or whatever,
Hmm.
kind of
Yeah.
thing. So yeah, I can see what you're saying of that too.
Yeah. So moving on to our ratings, what would you give the cast out of five?
I give him a 4. I enjoyed the 4 or the 3 main.
Yeah.
I'll actually say the 4 main because I consider the mom a main character in this one
Okay. Yeah.
because there was enough going back and forth
Hmm.
with their past, and I
Yeah.
appreciated with that one too that they did it as her at different ages too.
Hmm.
It wasn't just like the flashbacks of the same thing. So I would
Yes.
say 4, but and I'm doing that because really the side characters of the Mean Girls was like, and we did get Niall
Okay.
Matter.
Okay. I see what you're saying. I originally gave it five, but I'll backtrack and I'll say 4.5
Okay, fair enough.
because of what you said, because I agree about the Mean Girls.
Sorry, Mean Girls are just not my
It's
forte.
okay. It's okay. I
At this
actually
point,
agree.
just get a burn book, I guess.
Oh my goodness. And then the chemistry,
I Well, now are we saying chemistry of the entire cast, or are we saying chemistry of the actual just main characters?
just I guess the romance.
The
So
the
the
romance?
chemistry,
Okay.
yeah.
I give the romance a 4.
Okay. I said
Yeah.
five. I thought it was good.
That's interesting that you say 5 when you say you want more development.
Oh, okay. So you know what? Change that. I did this in a hurry, so I give it four too.
This is what I love about these things is we watch the same thing and we completely watch things
Yeah.
differently too, which is what makes
Yes.
it interesting.
Yes. But I enjoyed the chemistry. I thought that they
Mhm.
were great together.
I did
So
too, yeah.
even though it's a four for me, it was still great.
And
And
see, what I
then
think is interesting is you've already kind of said Christmas feels weren't all the way there for you. And for me,
I said four.
I gave it a 5 because they were doing a Christmas village or a Christmas
Oh,
themed
that's true.
event.
That's true. I said
I
four, which
was,
is,
you know, so yeah.
yeah. I said four, which is still
Okay.
good.
Okay.
And then setting. So that's the sets and the location.
I loved the farm and how much that they
Hmm.
used of it and
I
showed
said
different,
five.
actually, yeah, giving them aspects. So I gave the setting a 5.
Okay. Yeah. And then story. So that's the writing.
Okay, I'd give that well, I don't know, this one really touched me, so I actually myself give it a 5.
Okay, I said 3.5
Ooh,
because of the development of the
okay,
romance. But I mean, it was still good. 3.5 is good for me. Like 3.5
okay,
or higher, it's
got
a
it.
solid movie for me. And then overall.
Overall, I would go with 4.
Okay, I said 3.5, so the same as what I ranked
Yeah.
it for story. But I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a solid movie for Hallmark.
Yep. Oh, definitely. Do you ever rate it if you'll watch it again?
Yes, I would
I'd
watch
watch
it
it again.
again. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Yes. This is a rewatch for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Moving on to Debbie Maycomer's Joyful Mrs. Miracle. It stars Rachel Boston, Pascal Lamoth Kipnis, Tanner Novlin, Matthew James Dowden, and Max Lloyd Jones. It was written by Nina Weinman and directed by Peter Benson. Three adult siblings return to their childhood home at Christmas to honor their late grandmother's wishes and try to agree on new leadership for the family's company. Enter Annie Merkel, also known as Mrs. Miracle, who poses as an estate planner and uses her special brand of Christmas magic to help the family find common ground and rekindle their bonds. Now, for the Hardys out there, we all know and love Max Lloyd Jones as Tom Thornton and
Uh-huh.
Matthew James Dowden made an appearance in season 9.
Oh my
And that
gosh,
was
you know
great.
what? I never actually put two and two together with him, and it took me a while to put two and two together with Max. I think, you know what? In all fairness, I think was that a midnight to 1 a.m. viewing? It might have been, but it was the
Maybe.
second that it clicked. I was like, oh my gosh, Catherine, duh.
What were your first impressions on this movie?
It was a rough one.
Oh,
I mean, I think it just reminded me of too many, not to be a Debbie Downer.
okay.
I think it just reminded me of too many. I mean, granted, they're all the same after a
Mm-hmm.
while, but there was just, I kept thinking and comparing it a lot to the one where Danica McKellar is the estate planner with the siblings, and Neil Bledsoe is
Oh,
one of the
coming
siblings that
home
comes
for
in.
Christmas.
Yeah. So I think in my mind, like I just kept like seeing that in the storyline of
Mm-hmm.
that. Loved Rachel Boston
Mm-hmm.
in
She was
the
great.
in her role. And
Mm-hmm.
she played that perfectly and was
Mm-hmm.
so I think
Yeah.
I just really struggled with the actual sibling storyline, which
Okay.
is a bummer because of course that's the purpose of Mrs. Miracle.
Mm-hmm.
But no, she definitely for me was the highlight.
Yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was great. I thought the cast, everyone did a great job in their roles, I believe. And two messages I got out of this movie from my first impressions are everything has a purpose, which shows itself in due time. That was a quote from Charlotte to Austin when they're in the
Hmm.
stables at the beginning of the movie. And
Hmm.
then this one is from Annie, so Rachel's character, to Austin. I believe people come into our lives as a blessing or a lesson, and it's up to us to figure out which is which. And that's very true.
Who immediately thought of One Calls the Heart with that line though? I was like, oh, I like that one. Yeah. No, and she actually said all of them because of the growth together of Austin
Yeah,
and yeah, with their
yeah,
relationship, like I thought that there were a lot of good ones. I just
yeah.
didn't write them down. But yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back and rewrite the quote from a lot of these because it's like, oh, if they make you think and stop,
Yeah.
that's always a bonus.
Yes. So what were going to our hits, some of the things that you did like about this movie or any scenes that you enjoyed?
Okay, I loved the Mary Poppins aspect of her bag,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
and
The
that
pulling of
there was like it was just like at first it was kind of like a believable. It was like
hmm
I'll kind of sit there and try to figure out what you're doing, but then
hmm
okay, I'll just go along with it. I found I found like I was just waiting for the entire coat
hmm
rack to come out.
Yes.
So I appreciated that aspect of it. I appreciated the heart that was in there
Mm-hmm.
too, that I guess that there was growth together
Mm-hmm.
with the characters, but at the same
Mm-hmm.
time I still was questioning, like, did I
Mm-hmm.
miss a scene or two? So for me it really was right. And I thought the little kid was cute, and
Oh, he did a great
he
job.
did really good with his role, and that
Mm-hmm.
we're adding, an anxiety and different
Yeah.
things and elements into with the children too, and the children's
Yeah.
roles. I thought, he did a great job with that. So
Yeah. I enjoyed all of Cody's scenes. So that was the little boy. So that was
mhm,
Charlotte's son. He was a great young actor. And I
mhm.
don't know if this was his first role on Hallmark, but he did a great job.
Yeah, I didn't look.
I loved the mother-son relationship with Charlotte and Cody, speaking of Cody. And
Mm-hmm.
then the side story romance with Benedict and Portia, I thought was nice. I feel like we didn't get enough of that. I would have liked to have seen a couple more scenes with them.
Yeah, I really wasn't feeling it with them because we didn't get enough. Like,
Okay, I see what you're saying.
and at the beginning too, was he trying to was he speaking in an English accent with an, I mean, you had to go back and rewatch
Yeah.
that, like their London scene, because
Mm-hmm.
I was just kind of like, I was, to me it was kind of a little bit more all over the place, so it was hard to,
Okay, I see what
I
you're
it
saying.
was hard. So I
Yeah.
appreciated that I didn't think she was coming back, so I appreciated
Yeah.
that they did bring her character back into the
Mm-hmm.
story. But because if it would have been like the first impression,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
The opening flashback scene to 2006, I thought was great with Austin
Hmm.
and Charlotte with Dan and Shay's Christmas Isn't Christmas playing in
Hmm.
the background. I love Dan and Shay. I'm a huge Dan and Shay fan, so that was great.
um I love that Peter Benson had himself and his character looking out the window at them. It's
Yes,
like, Peter.
yes. And Peter did a great job
Yeah.
directing, so well done.
Hmm. Yeah.
I always enjoy his movies as an
Hmm.
actor and a director. So,
Yeah, and it's just fun when you get to see them and
yeah.
pop up and do it too. So
Yeah. There were a couple, I won't mention them all, I'll just mention them as a whole. I enjoyed the moments with Annie and Cody. I think there were two. One
hmm.
was when they were talking about the train
Hmm.
decoration, and then the other one at the end when she ends up finding him in the stables.
Hmm.
That was a great one. I think that was my favorite between them.
There was another one in the stables where she sends them off to go have their lunch or something
That
like
might
that.
be, that might
Yeah.
be.
And so I
Yeah.
think, but that wasn't the time that he was lost, right?
No, no.
Okay.
Yeah, they had a nice dynamic, I think.
Yeah. And oh, and another hit for me, which I absolutely loved with some of the one-liners for Annie's
Hmm.
character, was just like I've been wanting to try this recipe since 1896 or whatever, and they're like, "What?"
1860s, I think, something like that.
Yeah. And so I was just like, because obviously the person who had this role
Yeah.
the last time that I remember, it was Doris Roberts.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she did two or three of them. And it's been quite a while since I've seen them, but I did read the Mrs.
Yeah.
Miracle books. I grew up reading Debbie McComber. And
Hmm.
the other one, that there's one about a group of angels, that Trinity is the one that is coming to mind, but there's three angels
Okay.
who go in and do
Yeah.
exactly the same thing as Mrs. Miracle. And those were ones
Yeah.
that I made sure I watched or I read every
Yeah.
Christmas.
I think this is Rachel's second role playing an angel. I know she did with Christmas in Angel Falls, and she
Okay.
does a great job
Yeah.
in these kinds of roles.
But then, like they had the hint where he is just like, I drew a picture of you and it's her as an angel, or where are your
Yes.
wings?
Yeah.
And I guess, and I could have maybe missed something. But at one
Hmm.
point you knew that Charlotte was just like, she was like, oh, when Austin was going to leave. And she's just
Hmm.
like, did you, oh, like, oh, wink, wink, your car wouldn't start, kind of a thing. So she
Yeah.
knew that there was magic in it, but I
Yes.
missed it of whether or not, like, when did she actually like believe in it, kind of a thing.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I wondered about that too.
So that actually would be more of a miss, except for
Yeah.
I
Okay.
appreciated the humor with the hit.
Yes, I see what you're saying. Another scene of Annie's I really enjoyed was the talk with Austin in the attic when they're talking about Charlotte and then him joining the Navy and getting his teaching credentials. And she says, service to others is the most noble of endeavors. And that's very true.
Hmm.
And then he talks about how Charlotte's grandmother helped take care of his dad when he
Yeah.
was sick. And I
So
thought that was really sweet.
yeah, and he felt that he
Hmm.
owed it to her,
Yes.
and I don't know how young they technically were supposed to be
Hmm.
in this because it seems like it had been about 10 years probably that had passed,
Hmm.
and that she because and if I'm not mistaken, wasn't she going off
Hmm.
to college at that Christmas that was at the
I
beginning?
think so.
So I think 10 years have passed,
Hmm.
and I you don't, like you said, with the nobility of doing and helping others, you just, not to say anything horrible, but
Yeah.
sometimes I have younger cousins that I feel like it's missing because you
Hmm.
grow up differently. And
Hmm.
so it always kind of warms my heart, like you said, that when
Yeah.
they have that aspect of them too.
Yeah.
Nothing against my cousins, love my cousins,
Oh,
but
no. I see what you're saying.
it's an age, it's we're all
Yeah.
raised, each generation's raised a little bit differently. So
Yes, very true. If I had to pick a favorite scene with Austin and Charlotte, it would probably be between two. The talk
okay.
over hot cocoa. I think when they're at the Christmas market, like they're walking
Hmm.
through town at the market and they're talking about Cody and horse therapy and then him being in the
Hmm.
military. And then the talk that they have after the dance party in the barn with Cody. That was a great scene. I think that was my favorite scene between them in the movie. That whole conversation that they had. When they're talking about Cody again and horse therapy,
Hmm.
and he's
Hmm.
encouraging her that
Yeah.
she's doing a great job as a mother.
Yes. And same thing, like we'll get it, they had the same situation where
Hmm.
you felt like there was genuine,
Yeah,
enough time had passed, they were older, that
yeah,
they were going to work, like they knew mistakes had happened in the past, they were going to
yeah.
work on it and everything
Hmm.
like that. So yeah.
I think a favorite moment between the siblings would have to be for me when they're at the Christmas party and Henry apologizes and then they all agree to work together. And then at the end of the movie, so the very end, when they decide to make Charlotte the
Hmm.
chair of the board,
Hmm.
but then stay on as
Yeah, they figured out a
co-chairs.
way
Yeah.
to actually do it together. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Of course, the dance with Austin and Charlotte at the end and her declaring her feelings to Austin and they share a kiss. And I actually enjoyed the proposal from Benedict to Portia too, even with the little that we
Oh,
got with them.
that's, and he flat out, like, he called her his love, this is the love of my life. And
Yeah,
because it seemed like he was definitely the quieter of the siblings.
yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
so it was, like he was one that just reserves things to when he
Mm-hmm.
feels it, kind of a thing, or hadn't been somebody who shared really too much of himself
Yeah,
personality wise with his siblings, kind of a thing. That's at least
yeah.
was my take on it.
Yes. Yeah.
Sometimes, like I said, we see it so differently, but I think it
Yes.
also depends on your real life dynamics that you have in real life too.
Yes.
So,
And I loved how he proposed with his mother's ring. That was so sweet.
yes, when it was found, she would
Mm-hmm.
want you to have it.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, and I don't know, I'm assuming if he was the oldest sibling, I'm assuming, but, it was absolutely like this, they were all in agreement as, who would go
Yeah.
to, including the estate manager too,
Yes.
or the housekeeper, whoever she was, like,
Yeah. Also, I really
yeah.
enjoyed the scene with the whole family and Annie decorating the tree. I thought that was
Yeah.
great.
Well, I was
Feels
trying
like
to figure out how Annie just had all the time in the world to be there, but
love a good Christmas
that's the
tree
miracle.
decorating scene.
It was a very good Christmas tree
Yeah.
decorating scene. I absolutely loved Mrs. Miracle's arrival, and where she's just like, all right, I'm here, let's get going, kind of a thing. And
Yes.
they are looking at it like, do we know her? Blah, 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 kind of
Yeah.
a thing. Yeah, that was played brilliantly. I thought that, and
Yeah.
that was by everybody. I thought that was
Yeah.
well done.
Yes, her commentary on the antique car was hilarious. I don't have the
Yeah.
line written down, but it made me laugh out loud.
So was it her really the parents' car then? I mean, I guess that would
It
be
could
our
have
assumption.
been.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also inside the house, when she's checking everything out, assessing the situation, and she's like, "Can you feel the energy?"
Well, I also liked that. That was one of the things when she's just like, the auction house is here or whoever it was, but they don't want
Yeah.
anybody around kind of a thing. So that's how, and she's like, that's why she's kicking people out. And I was just like, I don't know if it was my estate, if I'd be okay, sure, see ya.
Oh my goodness.
So, but
Oh my gosh.
Rachel did bring some good comedy
She
with some of
did.
those lines.
Yes.
So yeah.
Going to Mrs., what were some things that you didn't like about this movie or wished were different or anything you wanted to see in the movie?
I think, I mean, well, we saw development with the siblings,
Hmm.
and I agree with you. We saw them come together at the end.
Hmm.
There was just something still missing with the dynamic
Okay.
of the three of them, and I don't know if that's just, reflection on
Hmm.
for whatever for life or whatever, or if
Hmm.
I was too busy still just comparing it to another one. But that was really the relationship, and I liked Austin and Charlotte, but I
Hmm.
don't know. I feel like I wasn't personally feeling the chemistry between the two of them as
Okay.
much. As a
I see what
family
you.
unit, yeah, but something like there was just something holding it back where it seemed a little bit more for me, a little bit
Hmm.
more stoic. But that also makes sense for the personality of who he would
Hmm.
be too, because and she had the weight of the world on her shoulders or whatever,
Yeah.
especially with her being a single mother, and then that his dad had literally just left
Hmm.
them, and she's always making sure that he's okay, kind of a thing.
Hmm.
So you did see them at the end come back into their
Hmm.
younger personalities of more relaxed, being more
Yeah.
relaxed. So
Yes. I think for me, I had a couple of things. This one I felt had more Christmas feels than the
mm-hmm,
previous movie, but I thought it still could have had maybe a couple of other Christmas feels to it. I thought what we did get was great.
mm-hmm,
I wanted to see more of Benedict and Portia's story. We mentioned that. That
mm-hmm.
would have been great to see and maybe make us feel more connected to their
Yeah,
story. I mean, I thought that they were a great couple,
mm-hmm,
but I would have loved to have seen more of them. And then
yeah,
also the scene when they were talking about their parents' ring and then the Bible from, I think, their grandfather. And the part when they were talking about the ring, we have Henry blurting out that he was married. I would have
yeah.
loved to have heard more of that story.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like a pat, like at least they didn't completely go over it, but he was just like, it was Vegas, we're not going to talk about it, kind of a
Yes.
thing. And they're like, okay, sure, that's good. I did appreciate the back with a hit though with the pastor or
Oh, yes, that was great.
yeah, when she's just like, we have Pastor so and so read it, and they're like, how do you know? Oh, I was just
Yes.
guessing. I
That
just
was
really
hilarious.
enjoyed the Mrs. Miracle character.
Yes.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think it was great. I mean, I thought the dynamic between the family was great. I thought it was a solid movie for Hallmark, at least in my opinion. I really enjoyed it. Moving on to ratings, what would you give this movie for a cast?
I'm going to give it a 3.5.
Okay. I said five because I love all of these actors. So I thought
Mm-hmm.
everyone did a great job.
I enjoy them all uniquely. I just
Hmm.
was having
Yeah.
a little
Oh, I see
difficulty
what you're saying.
with some
Yeah.
of the chemistry. Yeah.
Yeah. Chemistry. So I guess romantic chemistry and then like family chemistry, family dynamics.
Well, I would say that being a family who's been separated, that was,
Mm-hmm.
or not close anymore, all of that was
Mm-hmm.
believable to me. I just struggled
Yeah.
with actually really seeing them connect or feeling
Yeah.
the connection was authentic afterwards. So in that
Mm-hmm.
case, I'd give that one a 4.
Okay.
And um I had to go with the 3.5 for the romantic too, just because it took me so long to really get into the two
Okay.
of them together.
I see what you're saying. For me, family chemistry, I gave 4.5 out of
Okay.
5. Romantic chemistry, probably like you said, 4. Well,
Hmm.
I think you said 3.5, so
I
mine's a
said
little bit higher.
3.5. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was good. I mean, it didn't blow me away, but it was still good. It wasn't the
Right.
worst chemistry, and it wasn't like the absolute best either. It was
Right.
right in the
Yeah.
middle. It was good.
There you go.
And then Christmas feels.
I actually gave it a 4 for the Christmas feels because
Okay.
they were like, and that was basically encouraging, and they were
Mm-hmm.
doing all these Christmas things together
Yeah.
to bring them together. So,
Yeah. I said 4.5. So it was
okay,
still good. And then setting.
probably a 4. I liked the
Okay.
house. The house was insanely
Yes, it was
gorgeous.
beautiful.
It was a
Yeah.
beautiful estate.
Yeah. I said 5 for the
Okay,
house and the Christmas market and story.
can I give it a 3.75?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, if
Okay,
that's the way you feel, it's okay.
yeah.
I mean, honesty is the best thing. So,
I think you've met me. I'm honest. Obviously, if I'm comparing things to real life,
yes,
my poor
we want
my poor cousins.
we want honest opinions on this podcast, or I do. I want honest opinions.
I actually could have watched just a whole movie of Rachel. I mean, she has to be Mrs. Miracle
Hmm.
to somebody in order for it all to make
Yeah.
sense. But I could have just watched a whole movie of her just being Mrs. Miracle and been a happy camper.
Yes. I gave it a 4 for story.
Okay.
And then overall.
Overall, I'll go with a 3.5.
Okay, I said 4. I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was great. At least for me.
I feel like I'm the Grinch.
No, not at all. You're
I
you're
think it's
fine.
hard. It's hard also when you've read the
Hmm.
books too, or
Yeah.
and we're talking about
Hmm.
one that is building off
Hmm.
of each, off of a series. Well, it's been a while and stuff like that, but I
Hmm.
did believe. I appreciated that I believed in the magic of Mrs.
Hmm.
Miracle and that she was there for a purpose. And I mean,
Yeah.
all of that was
Hmm.
thumbs up for me. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I haven't read the books yet,
mhm.
but I want to. So maybe that's another reason why I rated it higher because
Yeah,
I didn't have the books to compare it to. So
yeah. When I can't even tell you what the actual even storyline
it's
was in
okay.
the James Vanderbeek and Doris Roberts one. I
Oh,
can't remember exactly
it's
what.
okay.
I think he was a single father. That's what I remember.
Moving on to Deck the Walls. This stars Wes Brown, Ashley Greene, and Danny Pellegrino. It was written by Tracy Andreen with the story by Danny Pellegrino and directed by Jake Van Wagner. Rose is a Chicago-based designer whose brother Sal is responsible for a charity house flip back in their Ohio hometown. When a budget crisis puts this project in danger, Rose reluctantly returns during the holidays to try to save the day. What were your first impressions on this movie?
Well, I love Wes Brown in anything, so
Yes,
he
me too.
he could have chemistry with a paper bag, in my opinion. So,
Yeah, he's
um,
great.
overall, I thought while it had, of course, some very serious notes to
Hmm.
it, and for the main character and everything like that, and actually both of them, it reminded me a lot of Christmas Under the Lights in some
Yeah.
aspects because
Hmm.
it was each of them were dealing with the same thing,
Hmm.
breakups for the guys and then or being
Yeah.
dumped, and then for the girls losses.
Hmm.
I thought it actually had a really good flow, and
Hmm.
it had
Yeah.
a great and a time frame that was believable for them getting close
Hmm.
to and the countdown of the days. And so
Yeah.
overall, actually, this one was out of all the five of them that I watched, I think this one was my number two. So yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. Great ensemble cast. I thought the writing from
Hmm.
Tracy was great. And then the story was
Hmm.
pretty creative too from Danny, while still holding true to the
Right.
Hallmark formula, like I
Yeah.
mentioned with Christmas Under the Lights. And
So has Danny done? I did not look for on IMDb with him. Has he done other things, or is he just actually really in home construction in real life?
I don't know. I haven't
Okay.
looked it up either, but I think this was his first Hallmark movie, if I'm correct. And he
Okay.
did a great job.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed his
Yeah.
character.
Yeah, he was one of my favorite parts of this movie, I think.
Hmm.
He was
Well,
great.
he was truthful about himself and what he was gonna,
Hmm.
like
Yeah,
that
very true.
dynamic of the friendship for the two of them.
Yeah.
Same. Oh my gosh, it is literally it is literally the same movie in that aspect too. Wes's character owed it to him, or felt
Yeah.
he did, and so he had taken him in and gotten him a job, um and their brotherhood was
Hmm.
great.
Hmm.
I loved
Yeah.
Carolyn Hennessy as the aunt.
Oh, she was
she
great.
was fun. I
Yes.
only know her from General Hospital days, but I
Okay,
really
I've
enjoyed
never
her.
watched that. But yeah, she did a great job.
I'm sure
I
she's
also,
probably done other ones too, but that was
yeah,
where I know her from.
yeah. I loved the brother-sister dynamic of Sal and
Hmm.
Rose. I thought that was great. The
Hmm.
aunt, niece, and nephew relationship with Gigi, Rose, and Sal. Great
Hmm.
comedic banter, especially between Wes, Ashley, and Danny. I thought were great.
Yeah, it was good.
And then some of the scenes with Wes and Ashley, the comedic moments just had me laughing out loud. Like,
Well,
for
one of them
example,
is definitely one of my favorite hits is for one of the scenes. So I can't wait to hear
okay,
what yours are to see if it's the same.
yes. One of them is the scene when he's shaving and she walks into the bathroom and interrupts him.
Oh, that was a good one.
Yes, laughing out loud.
I love the Jack and Jill aspect of the bathroom.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
we're you're like we're bathroom buddies or whatever, or I guess and oh, you didn't tell me kind of a thing. So yeah. And
Hmm.
same thing with that. They didn't keep the I wouldn't even really oh, I guess they were enemies because what was her word for him?
I should have written it down, but I didn't.
Oh, it's not that. But just
It was
basically,
funny.
yeah, that she was just like, oh, not coming because of him, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I think it was just like because he knew it
Hmm.
that was said about him. He
Hmm.
played off of it
He did.
well with where he was trying to poke the bear with her a little bit too. So
Yes.
yeah, the comedic timing was good with this one.
Yes. I loved the house flipping concept for a charity. I thought that was nice.
Mhm.
And then talking about scenes, this one mainly for the editing that was done. I loved the way that they did this. The first scene, or one of the first scenes, I think it was the second scene, when Rose has that first phone conversation about the charity
Mm.
house flip with Sal, and they do the
Hmm.
split screen
Hmm.
of them talking on the phone.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yes, I loved that too. And it was not a short scene either.
No,
That was a good few minute
yeah,
conversation
it
back
was
and forth.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like seeing that happen more in it now.
Yes, me too. This one was a comedic scene between Sal and Bryson, and they're talking about Jake Hunter covering the Christmas charity flip. So
Hmm.
this is after they find out about the budget crisis. And I laughed out loud when Sal said, of all the Christmas flip houses in all the Christmas world, Jake Hunter is covering mine.
There were
Casablanca
Yeah.
reference.
There was some good one-liners, and I like that he kept calling him Jake Hunter, like I'm sure at some point I was waiting for him to be, and he did finally say his last name too, but I thought that was,
Yeah.
yeah, he wasn't letting go of his grudge. So,
That is the second time this season that there's been a Casablanca reference with that line, but the words have been changed.
mm,
The first time was in Christmas with the Sings at the beginning when the female lead, is talking to Ben's character and she says, of all the ERs and all the towns in all the
oh, you
world.
walk into mine or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that.
I haven't seen Casablanca, so there we
Oh,
go.
I've seen bits and pieces of it from film class. I
You
watched
had this
that.
date with
Yeah.
Destiny.
Yes.
Yeah, no, one of my favorites was the Christmas tree scene where literally Wes was being guest on.
Oh, Wait, the
with this
yeah,
posing and like, oh, that's too much kind of a thing. And it was so Wes.
yes. Oh, cue the Gaston song from
Yeah,
Beauty and the
I mean,
Beast.
I was like, well, like literally, I was just like, that is he's being guest on right now.
It's kind of ironic because didn't Wes play Gaston on Once Upon a Time?
Yes, that's why I kept thinking it. Yeah, he did. Yeah. So Gaston is in there. But it was just as just like or he also there was one with the Holly, I think too, where he's just, where he had
Yeah.
his hand or his fingers on his chin and stuff like that. So they, he's got a few signature moves and he uses them. And I just love
Yes.
him in real life too. So I
Oh,
just
he's
thought that
great.
was,
Yes.
yeah, I just thought
Yeah.
that that was pretty good. That was probably out of like I mean, out of interactions, that was probably my
Hmm.
favorite one between the two of them. With like, make a pose so I can post it.
Yes.
Okay.
I also loved their meet cute. So
Mm-hmm.
Bryson and Rose's, that was hilarious when she runs
Mm-hmm.
into him or they run into each other. And I think he has the coffee and it
Yeah.
spills all over her.
Yep.
Classic Hallmark trope.
Oh yeah. Very classic.
It was great. And then can we talk about the product placement of
Oh,
home
that was in
goods?
my miss. Oh my gosh. I'm literally the one scene of her going out to her car with home goods behind her. I was like, well, that's literally a commercial right there. I don't even know why you would. Hallmark filmed a commercial for you, home goods.
I think I saw somebody tweet or post about or comment. It was like Hallmark basically filmed a home goods commercial within this
They
movie.
did. They literally did. I mean, that was I guess who the director did an amazing job with the camera angles because that was I mean, that was the first thing that I thought of as soon as I saw it. I mean, actually, well, I thought it was a little over the top with the product placement and I know
It was,
why they do.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
what I appreciated was there was, instead of just being like her going through the store,
Hmm.
because she's talking with the home goods guy
Yeah.
and all of that. And so there's that ability to get that kind of plug
Hmm.
in kind of a thing of how they really like to help with charity. And
Yeah.
there's so much new stuff coming in every day. So they got
Yeah.
the plug in, but
Yeah.
then it was how she met the family that they were
Yeah.
helping.
I enjoyed that.
I thought that was great.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. Katie and then Arabella Landry, so
Yeah.
the mother and the daughter. And the young girl that plays the daughter, her name is Cora Bella, and she was the daughter to Sarah Drew in Branching Out from earlier this year.
Oh, okay. I didn't recognize her from that.
Yeah.
But what I did appreciate with this one too is like, and that you found out that what it helped her connect with this family more
Hmm.
because that was exactly what she was doing,
Yeah.
was what she loved to do with her mom. And so, yeah.
Yeah. She did a great job.
Yeah.
And I laughed when Arabella was talking about, having to share a room with her brother. And I chuckled when she said, it's not ideal. Of course, I loved the Christmas decorating scene with the Landrys. So at the
Hmm.
Landrys' house with another Dan and Shay song, Take Me Home for Christmas. I thought that was great. And then this was kind of a comical line when Bryson and Rose are in the car after spending time with the Landrys. And he says, did Rose DeMonte's heart just grow 3 sizes?
Yes. And
Grinch
actually,
reference.
I wrote down in these movies that I
Hmm.
honestly can't remember a time of hearing so many past Christmas movie references that I did in these five movies.
Yes.
Granted, there's good reason for one of them for
Yeah.
sure, but
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm like, oh, my, because I Whoville and all that has come up, and
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah.
Also, the holiday games with Aunt Gigi, Sal, Rose, and Bryson was fun. And I love when Bryson says,
I just love that she just was like, oh, it's a Tuesday night, you've been busy, let's do this. And so
yeah,
I was, yeah, I agree
yeah,
with you. That was one of
yeah.
my, yeah.
I love when Bryson says, "What in the family telepathy is going on here?" I think my favorite scene with Rose and her aunt, Gigi, was the one after she finds the box of Christmas decor and she's talking
Hmm.
about the porcelain tree and her
Hmm.
parents. That was
Yeah.
really sweet. The charity skate scene, at the ice
Yeah.
rink was great. And Sal with the Christmas karaoke was hilarious.
I was trying to figure out if he thought he was good or what. Because they're like, oh, he's warming up. And then he was just like, thank you, thank you. Like, I mean, I just I was like, what? So that was my only question coming
Yeah,
out of it was like, did he think
yeah,
he was good or did he not care and was just having
yeah,
fun?
yeah.
So,
Uh,
especially when Jake was just like, oh, like I respect and I'm impressed that you did it. I'd be
hmm
too scared to or whatever. And I'd be like,
Yeah,
he'd be the person, no offense, but he'd be the
yeah.
person be like, oh, I'm okay. I'll go do this now because I feel like I'm among my people.
They get back from the charity skate, I think, and
Mhm.
or maybe it's the next day, and they find the tree that has kind of,
Yeah.
caved in the house. And because of that, the box with the Christmas decor was
Mhm.
damaged, meaning the porcelain tree was also damaged.
Yeah.
And I thought the scene with Sal and Rose after she finds the broken Christmas tree, I thought that was a great moment between them. Great
Hmm.
brother sister moment.
Yeah. I really enjoyed their relationship just in general across
Yes.
the entire thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the Landry family pitching in to help with the renovation, I thought was really nice.
Yeah, I
I
really enjoyed
remember.
that where it was just like
Yeah.
we won't go into further than we
Yeah.
should or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Jake was trying to get anybody to
Yeah.
do a job that he didn't want to do.
Yeah.
Um and I will say, but how did that aunt have the energy after that day to make dinner and to tell a cookies for everyone? Inquiring minds want to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was like, I was tired just watching them.
This, while a little predictable, like the second that the porcelain tree came out, I knew it
Hmm.
was going to break, and then I knew Bryson was going to
Fix it.
gift her
Yeah.
another one. It was a
Yeah.
little predictable, but I still thought it was sweet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, of course, I loved the end when they share their
Yeah.
feelings and first kiss, and then they talk by the fire. And that
Yeah.
was with the Jack and Jill reference.
Well, and then yeah, and then I just what I really appreciated with that too was it was I feel like I said, I feel like even though they supposedly knew each other in high school, but really
Hmm
didn't hang out or she just had a
Yeah.
crush on him and stuff like that, they gave enough time in the days leading up to this
hmm
renovation to actually allow a real relationship to be forming from
Yeah.
them. So, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe not to Mrs. Was there anything that you didn't like or maybe wished for in this movie?
Seriously, just the product placement was cracking me up, where I
I see
was
what
just
you're
like,
saying. Yeah.
sometimes it's just a little over the top.
Yes.
So that's not a really fair miss because it has a purpose, but I was like,
hmm
eh.
Yeah.
Um, Overall, because I enjoyed everybody's relationships with each
Yeah.
other, I can't think of anything else.
I think really the main thing, it didn't make me not enjoy the movie, but along with the predictability of the porcelain tree, I did think the conflict was a little too predictable.
Oh, the wife,
The
ex-wife?
misunderstanding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it
But
happened twice. Yeah.
yeah, I
Did
still
you?
enjoyed the movie. But
Yeah.
yeah, that just brought it down just a little bit for me.
Nope, that's completely fair because that one kind of annoyed me too. But then talking in another movie, I get why it happens.
Yes. So going to our ratings, what would you give the cast out of 5?
Oh, I loved this cast. I'd give this cast a
Hmm
5, and
I did too.
I enjoyed the supporting characters too, and that
Me too.
includes the supporting characters. I thought
Oh,
everybody was
yeah,
great in
yeah.
their role.
Yes, me too. And then chemistry, I said 5.
Oh, I said 5 too. Yeah,
And then Christmas feels, I said 5. I thought there was a good amount of Christmas feels.
I would agree. I mean, they were making a Christmas dinner at the end. They were doing something to give
Christmas
to them for
cookies.
Christmas. At first, I was a little confused if the boys were actually in the house or if like they were watching the live feed from like their own home. And I was like, why are you not at your own reveal? And so I
Yeah.
loved that they welcomed them into the house. So I thought
Yeah, me
that
too.
that was a nice touch.
Setting.
I'd give it a 5.
Okay. I
Um,
did too. Yeah.
yeah.
And then story.
Story wise, I enjoyed every aspect of it, so I'll give it a 5.
Yeah. I said 4 based on what I just said with the conflict, but it
Okay.
was a really good movie. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then overall.
Well, I think if everything else is a 5, I got to continue with my 5.
Yes.
I
I gave
enjoyed
it
it.
4. Yeah. I gave it
And
4.
okay. And I also enjoyed her journey of she was somebody who was always running away. Rose was. And not wanting to run away. That was the quote that I really enjoyed was you can't escape it, you can only delay it or something like that. Because and then also when they were talking openly about therapy and stuff like that, and he was just like, your avoidance, or and I can't remember what each one was, but I thought that they just did, they just did the right amount to have a little humor with it, but also talk about how important it was, and then the working through. So overall, that is something I was very thankful that they did for her journey.
Yeah.
And like I said, they both had a journey.
They definitely did. Well, this was so much fun. Catherine, thank you for joining me, and I can't wait to have you back on for part 2, which we will be recording right after this.
So we're going to wear the same clothes.
We're going to wear the same clothes.
Thank you, Nicole.
All right, Hallmarkies, I think that wraps up our part 1 review of Hallmark Christmas 2024 week 7. If you enjoyed this episode and are watching on YouTube, you can like this video and share your thoughts on these 3 movies in the comments. If you are listening on Spotify, make sure to rate and review, as your feedback is always greatly appreciated. If you want to stay up to date on all of my episodes, you can subscribe to this channel on YouTube or follow along on Spotify, and make sure to turn on the bell so you are alerted when new episodes come. You can also find the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at Swing My Heart Podcast and Twitter at Swing My Heart Pod. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are in the world, and we will see you soon for part 2. We love y'all. Bye.